what piece of the value creation is connected to this idea of creatives being a commodity or not being a commodity?
If I was a photographer, I would never want to think that. I would want to give so much value to my clients beyond what they hired me for that I'm not interchangeable or replaceable. It's not enough to just throw it on a site and then hope it all goes well. You have to really dial in your marketing systems to be top of mind. That's where I truly believe that creatives are not a commodity, because there is so much like heart and soul poured out into what they do. But also at the same time, you can tell when it's not there. And so I just think just positioning yourself not to be a commodity.
Welcome to the Backcountry Marketing Podcast. Today, I'm sitting down with Chris Whitten. He is the Senior Production Manager at Red Bull. Chris, welcome to the show.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much for having me, Cole. Really appreciate it. Honored to be here with you. Love your podcast and what you've been doing.
Thank you. I'm stoked to have you. I'm excited to jump into our conversation today. On this podcast, we talk about a lot of things. Specifically, we talk about marketing. We talk about creativity. We talk about producing creative.
Yeah.
And more often, though, it's focused on the brand side of things, like the actual creation of work and how it's received, and trying to understand what are the bits and pieces that are required to produce good creative. On this episode, Chris, we're going to dive into kind of behind the scenes of the lessons and some of the insights and frameworks that you have for actually producing creative, specifically focusing though on working with contractors, working with photographers, filmmakers, production houses, and ultimately trying to build, because great creativity takes a good culture, it takes the right team, and you've got some really great ideas and things to share with the audience about how to foster a great culture and hiring the right people to go ahead and produce that creative. So we're going to work through a number of ideas and frameworks here that you have identified and things that you have learned and preach. And so we're going to kind of walk through them one by one. And
Preach is a fun, yeah.
Maybe that's the wrong word.
No, I love it. Love it.
Before we jump in, though, can you give us a little context and background as to who you are? And
yeah, totally. I grew up in a small town, East Texas, and I remember far back, like I would always steal my mom's Polaroid. And so that's kind of how I introduced myself into this crazy business. And then I ended up going to school out in Savannah, Georgia at Savannah College of Art and Design, and majored in photography, and moved back to Texas when I graduated, to Dallas specifically. And that was like kind of my entrance into commercial advertising. I forget where I was, but I was one day on set and called us a chip on my shoulder. Someone was like, I think I was asking somebody that worked at an agency if they thought I would be a good agency producer. And they were like, nah, the skills don't translate. And I was like, I don't think you're right. And so in 2018, joined up with Saatchi Saatchi and on a 6-month contract, and was producing I was kind of like a content creator and produced a lot of work for an automotive client that was a partnership of the Olympics. And so got to do a lot of cool stuff. Ended up going to the Korea Games in 2018. Shortly thereafter, in 21, I got hired by the same company full-time, Saatchi Saatchi, and came in full-time as an art producer, and did that for about 3 years. Loved the company. Red Bull kind of saw an opportunity and took it, and been there 5 months. And so that's kind of like a long-winded way of my career, but I've sat in every position on the production side, from PA all the way up to producer. And so that's kind of I've seen it all. Talking direct with clients and just being the fly on the wall, the assistant or the PA over in the corner, filling people's coffee up, So yeah, that's a little snapshot.
Yeah. So why is this general topic of helping creative something that you care about? Yeah. Why is this something you like talking about?
Yeah, I think for everyone, and if they, look at their career and how they got started, someone took a chance on them. Because there was one point where you didn't have a portfolio, or you didn't have, like, I remember going and visiting photographers fresh out of school, and I would put my little portfolio I made, and art school, and it was trash looking back now, but it was like, that's what I would show them to assist them. And they're like, we just want to see that you're a cool person, you know? And so I had a mentor in Dallas that kind of took me under his wing. And so I just thought that, like, why not do that for other people and just help as best we can. And I know that I'm put on this earth to help people in whatever capacity. And so it was kind of to answer the question more, is like, I was getting, when you're on agency side, you get a bunch of outreach from photographers and directors, and 75% of it's bad. And it's very like nonchalant. Oh, just let me know if you ever want to work with me. And it's like, I don't know you. And I get 1,000 of those emails a week. And so I was like, instead of being a grouch, which I can sometimes be, I'm like, what's some ways that I can just try to share information of helping people get better at this? So that's kind of what preempted it all.
Gotcha. So I think this kind of sets the stage for your first idea. You mentioned, you get thousands of these emails a day, and I got to assume a lot of people in brand positions or creative directors are in a similar, they experience something similar, right? There's a lot of people who reach out looking for work. My belief, I don't know if belief is too strong of a word, but my assumption would be that the perception is that creatives are commodities, because there's how many photographers looking to shoot for X outdoor brands, right?
Right.
But your first kind of idea here is that creatives are not commodities. Tell us more about that idea against the backdrop of what you just shared.
It's a new concept to me that when we first talked, you kind of was like, what are your thoughts on this? And so I really kind of had to think about it. And I think some brands, smaller ones, could see, oh, these are just, there's so many people out there that shoot or direct or whatever, that it's like, we can just interchange them, whatever. But if you niche down to like what it is you're shooting, there's like, for automotive, for example, there's very few people that are really great at automotive, and especially very few in the United States that live in the lower 48. And so it's not a commodity. And I think, and what, trying to think, mindset too is like, if I was a photographer, I would never want to think that I'm interchangeable. And so I would want to give so much value to my clients beyond what they hired me for, that I'm not interchangeable or replaceable. So what I bring to the table on set or post or pre, it's like, I would never want to go anywhere else. I think like a practical example is like a car dealership, of like some brands, when you go buy them, it's a royal pain in the butt. Like, you're there for 4 hours. Like, I don't want to like name any brands, but we just bought a car and I was there for like 5 hours. And then we went to another dealership to buy my wife's car like 2 weeks ago. And it was like, we drove the car, took 15 minutes. We were like, hey, we're going to go home and think about it. They were like, cool, see you later. Where most car, they would be like, stay. No, I want to leave. And like, it just feels like this thing. They're like, oh, can we get you a coffee or a water to go, kind of thing? And we were like, no, we're good. Came back, and we did all the paperwork just over the phone and on DocuSign. And then we came and got the keys, and that was it. And so that's the type of like service. Like, there's one of my favorite books is Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guardia. And he talks about just being unreasonable with your value and all the things you bring to the table. And you can't replace that. And that's not interchangeable. So that's kind of what I would say about that.
Do you feel like most creatives are providing that? I love that idea, unreasonable hospitality. Do you feel like most creatives are providing that, or is it just a select few and those are the ones who find themselves being irreplaceable?
Yeah, and I think yes, I think there are. I I think it's also a learned thing of like, it's hard when this goes back to like the team around you, like having an excellent producer or EP or someone on your team. Like that's why crews, as we know, that's why crews are structured the way they are. So like the photographer or director can focus on that, just the creative. And so that they have a team around them that's like thinking of every little other thing that would bring the extra value to the client so that you keep getting hired over and over. And even if that producer or whatever is freelance, it only behooves them to like make everything excellent and above par, like, so that you do get hired again and again. And it is a learned trait. Yeah, some people have the innate ability just to this servanthood mentality. And that's really what I'm getting down to is like, we're just here to serve the client and the art, the creative as best we can. And it comes with not just taking a great picture or a great moving image. It's above that. Like, what's one thing that you could do on set that just is unforgettable? Like this one example, a producer, we were sitting at lunch and it was a long shoot. It was like 15 days just on set, and plus like scout prep, everything was like 25 total days that we were away from our families. And it was just like, just nonchalantly like passed out these postcards pre-stamped to everyone at the table, even the assistant, everybody. It was like, hey, send this to someone you love. It was like, I'll never forget that. Because I just got to quickly, he was like, write it down and I'll mail them out. So I just quickly wrote a note to my wife, and then she got it. It was so cool. Like, but that's the stuff that's like, oh, I'm going to remember that forever. And that guy's forever going to, if I ever need him again, he's the first call.
So back to this idea of creatives are not commodities. Do you feel like that comes down to the mindset of the creative? Yeah,
I do. And do you think, question for you is like, in your experience, sometimes, and I will say we can be cocky in this, like, well, I know how to do this. Like, I'm the expert here. And so it's like, yeah, you should hire me. And so it's this cockiness that comes to set even, or in the pitch, and not this like, and that's where it's like, oh, well, I can get another guy that's just as talented, that's not this cocky and doesn't have this attitude. Would you see that from your experience, or
the attitude that can come along with it? For sure. I try not to work with those people because
totally
it's not fun. It's not a team sport, because I think we put so much emphasis of our worth in our work that it inevitably attaches your ego to what you do. And if you're not careful, you can really let that, it can push you to a good point. It can push you past that point where it becomes this kind of toxic attitude. And I don't know, I hope that we don't come across that way when we work with folks.
Right.
We try not to hire folks who are like that because it's just not fun.
Yeah.
But I think it's definitely out there for sure.
Yeah. And so I just think just positioning yourself not to be a commodity. And I think those things that we talked about will put you in that commodity category. And in a sense, just does a disservice to the creative field as a whole.
So I feel like one piece of the equation of this idea of creatives are not commodities it comes down to the value that the creative is actually producing. And in a time when it seems like there's a lot of flux around the ROI and the value of the assets that we produce, it then maybe makes me question, well, are we all commodities? Because maybe AI will take all of our jobs one day. Who knows? Like what piece of the value creation is connected to this idea of creatives being a commodity or not being a commodity?
That's a great question. And, man, I think if you're unfamiliar, let's say you're sitting on the agency side and you're like trying to hire for a specific lifestyle shoot for a chip company, or let's say iced tea company. I don't know why I changed it. And there's a lot of photographers that can shoot that. And so looking at the multitude of websites that you could go that house these, or the rep sites, it's like, well, this is you could view that as a commodity. But I think understanding that as the creator, as the photographer, your work has to sit, like you have to sit outside of your work, because once you place it on these sites or on your site, it's like it's up to someone else's interpretation. So how do you stand out as a photographer or director to not be viewed as that? And I'm still like I'm still like just trying to understand that concept as well. It's like, but what can you do to level up how things are viewed? And I think it comes down to, it backs into probably something we're going to talk about a little bit later, is like, it's not enough to just throw it on a site and then hope it all goes well. You have to really dial in your marketing systems to be top of mind. That's where I truly believe that creatives are not a commodity, because there is so much like heart and soul poured out into what they do. And but also at the same time, you can tell when it's not there.
Yeah, gotcha. Tell me more about mindset, and from the position of the creator, what role does mindset play in their ability to find work to succeed?
Yeah. I think it plays like 98% of it.
Fascinating. Tell me more.
Art is scary in that, what we just talked about, you're putting your heart and soul out there and putting it on something and hope people like it. And one thing we learned in art school is like, not everyone's going to like it. And so and we don't want to ever hear about that. But if you've been to art school, or you're listening to this and you're in art school or whatever, you get ripped for stuff, and it's to your face, and it's by your peers and sometimes your friends. And at first it's a tough pill to swallow, and then it like hardens you for like, it's just hardening you for the world, because the reality is not everyone's going to like your stuff, and that's okay. Some people will, some people won't. So that brings in fear, self-doubt, hesitation, like all these things that compress us to not then marketing ourselves well. And so if we get in our head about all these things, then it's going to just push it all down. And that's where like some of the best photographers in the world, we don't even know about, our directors. I say photographers a lot just because that's my field, even though I produce both. We don't know about, because they're terrible at marketing. But I think that's the big holdback, is because they're in their head like, oh man, I don't want to do this. I'm just going to put it on this site, and then I may put it on Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever and hope somebody sees it. So that is a lot of what I talk about is just like mindset. Like, let's just do it, push it out there, and let's just create a system, a kind of a set it and forget it system to put work in front of people, so that it's like all your fears and hesitation is right there, and then you hit send, and you post 30 days worth of content, whatever, through a service, and then it's out, and you're done. And then you can go work on other things, bettering your craft, all those, all the fun stuff.
How many photographers this is a really overly simplistic question. I say that because I feel like sometimes I overly simplify questions on this podcast, and I'm trying to do a better job of adding a disclaimer. Of the photographers and the creatives out there who are quote unquote struggling, how much of it do you think is rooted in mindset and the hesitation of like getting stuck in your own head?
I would say, I mean, back to the 90-ish%, it's like, if you're if you haven't got work in 6 months or 12 months or like whatever, then I would just want to look at what your outreach has been. And if it's 0, then like why? I don't want to bother this person. I don't want to like whatever. All the things that we start telling ourselves in our head that no one ever told you, call it like putting your voice into the silence. Well, who told you that? No one. I just thought it. I was like, okay, it's not true then. Like the same amount of mindset, we call it, that it takes to tell you those negative things is the same amount to tell you the opposite. And so if we could just shift it, just whatever seems negative, shift it to positive and then do that thing. I think it just hangs a lot. I mean, pretty much everybody I talk to is the same thing over and over. Well, I didn't want to bother them. Oh, but all the excuses is like, and if we're talking about like outreach, let's just say we're talking about outreach specifically is the big bottleneck. And I think it relates to mindset is like yesterday, I'm in this massive project at work. And I think I got 3 emails from people I've never met, photographers, directors that are just like introducing themselves. And not to mention their like the way they word their emails is completely trash. It puts all the work on me, and we can get to that later. But I just deleted them because I like physically don't have time in the day. Like I was meetings every 30 minutes, and I still haven't packed. And I was like, I hope they email back. Sure, I could have like flagged it and like come back to it, and when I get back from this job. But it's just that. It's that type of thing when you're in an agency or you're in client side is like, it's constant. It is, and it does not stop. When I'm at the office, if I'm not in a meeting, someone's coming by my desk to ask me a question. And so I think more photographers and directors should just know that of how busy we are. It's like, not that we don't want to talk to you, is we don't have time. And so you got to frame your outreach in a way that's like easy for us, i.e. a Calendly link in your signature. So yeah, I think it's just, and that's just the mindset of like, oh, well, he didn't email me back. Well, how many times did you email him? Once. I had a rep chase me for 8 months, and it finally freed up time. And she would be like, hey, sorry, just thought about this one thing that I saw that you did. Super cool. I was like, oh, dang, I need to get back to Ashley because she's trying to get a meeting.
You wouldn't consider that 8-month follow-up a bother?
No. She was even like she's like, sorry, I've just been on you. And I was like, dude, no, it was so helpful. Like the ADHD that happens in most of our heads is like, that was like, I was just so thankful for that. I was like, dude, thank you. I've been so busy. And then the transition, because it happened like during the transition, like one time I was out in LA and she wanted to meet up and I couldn't make it happen. And so it just like, it's just this back and forth of like, I mean, dude, even you, the first time we were supposed to record, I like spaced and like, cause the calendar wasn't syncing and anyway, all the excuses in the world, but it was like, and just thankful for you to have the grace to be like, yeah, dude, no problem. Like, I get it. So what if you'd been like, no, screw you, man. Like I was sitting there for an hour. And so it's just like, we're all humans. We all like miss an email and like half the time, like stuff goes into my spam and I try to check my spam and I have like an other folder that it just gets classified in, that things will randomly get put in. Like most of our firewalls are crazy. And so if you're good, you just try to check everything. But yeah, I mean, back to the mindset thing, those are all things that happen to us when you're on these agency and client side. And so the follow-ups are not crazy. A buddy of mine, shout out Dalton Johnson, he said 18 months of just going after this one client. And finally the dude responded. Maybe out of just he finally wore him down. I think he would joke about that too. But and then he ended up getting a job out of it.
I want to push back a little bit here on this idea. So, okay, first off, I agree with a lot of what you're saying because I have felt that so many times of like,
Yeah.
oh, if I've sent my third email, I don't want to send a fourth because like that clearly they don't want to talk or clearly they're busy, whatever. And sometimes I'll even have been like following up, let me know if I'm being overly obnoxious. And
Yeah.
most people are then like, oh no, you're good. And I'm like, okay, phew, I'm not being a nuisance.
Yeah.
But back to this idea of being a commodity, if a photographer is following up with someone for 2 years, isn't that, if they are truly an expert at something and they aren't a commodity, shouldn't the client see that, recognize that? And if you're playing a follow-up game for 2 years, isn't that the definition of a commodity? Or is it really just being lost in the weeds of communication?
I think it's being lost in the weeds.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I would define it as a commodity. I see what you're saying. And back to the part of being annoying, like if someone finds it annoying, then do you want to work with that person? If that's what's going to really get under their skin, it's like, I'm trying to work with you. We're trying to work. And it goes back to what you're saying in the outreach too. But I understand your point, and I would politely disagree. But
no, that's great. I'm just curious.
From my perspective and being on both sides and now a client, it's like I'm thankful that people want to work with companies that I am employed by. It's just and a lot of times it's like we don't have like a stack of work that I'm like, oh yeah, Cole emailed. Let me just go through this stack. Here's a perfect one for Cole. It's like, hey man, we don't have anything right now, but stay in touch. And sure, like, well, sorry, I didn't ever respond and tell you that, but it's like, there's projects that'll pop and be like, and the first person that's in my orbit, I'm going to reach out to.
Yeah.
That fits in it. And so if you're like constantly like just kind of showing up, whether it's in a social algorithm or in an email, that's why I think not enough people do, and it's probably a played out word, but I think it's still like a newsletter, some sort of like outreach that's constant, that doesn't feel like, hey, can I get 15 minutes of your time? Is a lot better way. You still need those, like those, call them hard outreaches and soft outreaches. And then it kind of like, well, newsletter is kind of a commodity approach, but you just have to figure out a way to stay top of mind, and using that same creativity that you put into your work to put it into your outreach and to be top of mind.
Yeah, so let's talk about follow-up. You have talked a lot about follow-up. What are some best practices? What are some don'ts that you would recommend in follow-ups?
Yeah, I think, I've only gotten this a few times, but people like get upset. And it's like, okay, yeah, now you just burn the bridge. And some really good, I think the first emails, like, always have like a Calendly link or like 3-day block that you're going to be available with windows of time so that I can just go in and pick something. Because if I have to go, if you're like, hey, let me know if you ever have time to sit down for a meeting or a coffee or whatever, and then it's like, that requires me to do work now. So now I'm working for you. And a lot of it too is like, if you have a title like I have at a company like I have, and you have a title like you have, a director, I know why you're reaching out. So let's just scratch all that and then find some way to honor the person. Everyone has an ego. You want to stroke theirs. Don't like, hey, have all these awards and I've done this and I've done that. Cool. Find a way to stroke the person's ego. Like, hey, saw the campaign you did with X. Was super cool. What was one of the hardest parts about getting to that location? Boom. Well, this one kid, he got me because he knew that I was in vehicle space, and he said something. It was just like a one sentence, like, when was the first time you knew you loved cars? And he took a shot, and I was, because he may be like, oh, I may not like them. And it just brought me back to this moment that I was with my dad at a car show in Houston, and we saw an Acura NSX for the first time on the turntable. And my dad goes, that's a sexy car. And I've never heard anyone describe a car as sexy. And this was like 1998. And I was like, that's when I was like, even more so as a kid, I was like, oh, cars are sick. And then I just was obsessed. And so I just told him that story, and now we talk a lot. And he's new to photo and production, but you can tell he's got a right hand. So I just mentor him whenever I can. So those are like just like questions about like, what was hard about this production, or something to get them to talk, and not like, hey, can't wait to get on the phone so I can talk to you about me. Because the old saying is, the more I talk to someone, the more I like them. Or however you say it. And so those are just some like quick follow-up ways, and just even initial outreach, like the cold outreach, that would be like, I would open those emails and probably respond.
But you're advising folks, like if I'm, as a director, if I reached out to you, you would recommend me completely avoiding the sentence where I'm like, hey, I would love to work with you, because you already know that intention?
Yeah. Like, I don't think you want anything else from me. Because that's just the roles we're in. And I would put money on the response rate would be different.
So what are some other types of language that you would recommend people use in follow-ups or cold outreaches?
Yeah, that's a big one. The calendar's a huge thing. Like, don't feel like that you're making that person work to get a meeting. Some language would be like, if you want an in-person meeting, and give this big block of time. Like, I had a photographer I was talking to, and she lived like 2 hours outside of Seattle, and one of this client that she wanted to meet up with was in Seattle. And I was like, give her a week that you're going to be in Seattle, and this week is wide open for you to go meet coffee with her. And she's like, but I don't live in Seattle. I was like, but the day she picked, you're going to be in Seattle. And so she ended up booking a meeting just because she was just made herself available. And so that's not necessarily language, just like strategy. Find a way to honor that person, whether it's work or something. Like being at Saatchi has a big client base. I only worked on a vehicle brand. So it was hard for somebody, if they didn't really know or like didn't do a ton of research, they could mention a brand that I wasn't on. But I still was like, doesn't matter. They tried. Like it's hard to like sometimes know exactly if I only touch one brand or if I'm on multiple brands, stuff like that. I think even like, and I don't view this as creepy. Some other people may, but like LinkedIn or whatever, find out what college they went to, and like just find a tidbit of like, oh, I saw that Michigan beat blah 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 in football this week. Must have been fun to watch. And you don't even have to have a call to action. Just be like, and then you can, and the bot like, hey, I'm a photographer based in Dallas. Love the work you guys are producing.
So in a cold outreach, like what, in an ideal world, what's the outcome? What are you hoping for from a cold outreach? Like, if someone reach out and it's personalized and, it comes across well, like, what do you do with that? Are you like, oh, let's get together and meet? Is it like, let me just put your name on file? Like, what should the goal of the creative be in a cold outreach? Like, what is the CTA for them?
Get a meeting.
Okay.
And it may take a while, but it's like, it's first and foremost, make it so easy for me to book a meeting. It's like impossible to say no. Once I do, and now there are those instances where it may take 6-7 weeks couple months because of the busyness. Like next week, I'm not checking any of those emails because I'm just going to be locked in on the project. But 100% get a meeting, because the next part of it is, do you have that good attitude? Are you cool? Like, are you not cocky? All the things of like, okay, we're going to commit to being on set together, even if it's for a day or 10 days. It's like, are you somebody that I want to hang out with? So I want to meet the people. Work has to check the box, right? I used to get a lot when I was on vehicles only. I used to get like photographers, and this is kind of what spurred on this stuff, is like, no one's researching. It would take someone about 20 minutes if they plugged my name into any of the socials to see that I only worked on cars. And I would get hit up by architecture photographers and lifestyle photographers and be like, we'd love to work together. And I'm like, how? And so I could have responded how, but a lot of times I would be like, hey, this is what I do. Can I rewrite can I rewrite your outreach email for you? Half people would get pissed. No, I don't need your help. And half of them would be like, yeah, I would love that. And so I would just rewrite it. This is what I would have said to me. This is how I would respond. Try this next time. And then half those people would just ghost. Then they would get what I gave them, and then all I had to do was just send it back. That sounds kind of trite, but it's like, then we was like, okay, because I know, being in the business as long as you have, people that may need a lifestyle photographer or like our other brands or anything else. And so those are little things. Get a meeting for sure. I was like looking over here because I have like a whole email. Like I wrote a bunch of cold emails that I would open. Let's see. Yeah, honor the project. Love the view, visual, whatever, light somehow. And then it's like, hey, I'm a photographer based in X. I work with these clients. I would love 15 minutes of your time. Here's a Calendly link. Just so simple.
So they book the meeting. It goes well. You're like, all right, this person's cool. And if you don't have a project on deck, then what? Is it just all about the follow-up and staying top of mind for that person?
Yeah, I would say for that, like in the call, it's like you're trying to find like tidbits of knowledge, like what they're into. It's like most people that are really proud, especially creatives or people at agencies, they have like a backdrop of stuff, and it's usually guitars or like they're wearing a certain hat, or like then you can see what they're into, and then like, okay, dial in on that. And so I tell this story. When I was assistant, one of the photographers I worked with really wanted to get Gatorade as a client, and there was a certain agency here in Dallas that had Gatorade. And so I think how it went is like we got a job with them, and it was a small job, maybe shooting product or something, but we were like a lifestyle studio. And so the photographer was like, Chris, I want you to flex your muscle, kind of EP muscle, and I want you to like kind of court this guy, the creative director of Gatorade. And I was like, sure. What's the bet? Like, I was like, he's like, find something he's into, and every few weeks just send him something about it. I was like, cool. On set, I remember him saying, and he was wearing like a Bass Pro hat or something, and this was back in like 2006. And he found out he's really into bass fishing. So every couple of weeks, I would just send him in like an article, or, hey, I saw that so-and-so won like blah, 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 X lake bass fishing. And it started this relationship where we would just email back and forth about bass fishing, which is, I mean, I grew up fishing as a kid, but like not like that, like not level. And then if I would travel somewhere, I would like, and happen to be in like a lure shop. I don't know, like why would I be in a lure shop but traveling, but you know, or like see something that's fishing related, I would get it. $10 here, $5, you know, whatever. And then I would send it to him. Hey man, saw this. I don't know if this is a good lure or not, but thought of you. And so then it's like these little touches, like, and probably like that thing sits on his desk, and it's not something with our brand on it. It's just like a lure or whatever. And so now I'm always top of mind. The dude can't help but think of us because we're always doing just these little touches that has nothing to do with like, hey man, here's something we did for Lipton iced tea, kind of relates to Gatorade. And he's like, what? I already know that you guys can do good work. I've hired you before. And that's post cold, right? But those are the kind of like, once you get the initial meeting, like find something in that meeting. Like some people always have guitars behind them. Oh, you into guitars? Or like this one guy had a Porsche poster behind him. It's like, oh, you're into Porsche. Like, so then it's just like, that's the thing you can kind of latch onto and just kind of like every now and then, like, boom. Or and if they're the end F1 or the end of whatever it is, I think you get the idea. It's like, that's the follow-ups. And sure, seed work along the way. Really proud of this new project we just did for X. Thought you'd enjoy it. But that's after you've created this rapport of like, because you're much more like, works a lot. And sometimes the last thing I want to do is talk about a project that I'm on. Mm. So if you can be someone's like release to talk about what they're actually into, it helps. I promise.
Interesting. So I've often heard that this is from like, coaches or the internet. I don't even know who specifically, but the idea that if you don't speak the intention of like, oh, I am actively looking for work because I have availability, then folks don't know that. And then how can they, sure, they could be like, oh, so-and-so popped into my inbox. Oh, look, I have a great project. Let me just see if they're interested. But there's something, would you agree that sometimes you need to put a hard sell out there and be like, hey, I've got some availability amidst all of the airdropping of, fishing lures?
Yeah. I would say it's like, but then come with, maybe come with an idea. Got some availability. I thought about blah, 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 creative, something, because some of it to me like sounds desperate. It's like, I like working with the people that are just like hard to get sometimes. But yeah, I would push back a little bit, but yeah, I think you can state the intention, in that first, like, I'm a photographer based in X city, or I work with these type of clients that fit your niche, whatever. I'd love to keep in your circle, because it goes back to what I said. It's like, I know what this dance is. So how can you do it differently? Because everyone's saying that. I think I might do this is like take all of the cold outreach I've ever gotten and put into ChatGPT and like, hey, what is the differences in these? And it would probably be like, there's nothing. Or which ones stand out to you? And then I'd be interested to see like analytically what it would say. Because they all read the same to me.
So this kind of dovetails to another comment I've heard you make. The phrase, we'd love to work with you.
I hate it.
So tell me more, and what's an alternative?
It feels so passive. And then in some of it, it's like necessary too, but it's like, I know that you would love to work with me. And that sounds super cocky, but it's like, yeah, I got it. So I think you could be like, just don't even say it at all. If you'd be open to a short call, here's my calendar. Yeah. I love to work with you, to me ultimately feels like this just passive, like, boop, I'm just going to toss the ball over the fence. And if you ever think about me again, then I'd love it. Well, it's like, I'm not going to think about you again. 50 other emails and people try to get my attention right after I read your email. And so I think alternatives that you could say is just not say it at all. And, you could say, I would love to get coffee with you, or I would love to buy you lunch, or I would love to get 15 minutes of your time. So I can get to know you better or introduce myself and hear about what you're working on. And so those are just alternatives, and then saying, I'd love to work together. I think because we're kind of trained to do that, and like from dating, it's like, I'd love to take you to coffee. Well, it's a little different. But in this context, it's very defined to me, going back to like, I know why you're here. You know why I'm here. We want to create something together. We just have to create a relationship first.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about positioning and niching down. Earlier, you had mentioned, niching down into a particular industry like automotive. Are you more of a fan? It's easier to identify vertical positioning. How do you feel about horizontal positioning?
Like having a big body of work, like across product to lifestyle,
but
automotive.
Yeah, and like maybe my niche is, I'm really good at eliciting happy emotions, but I can do that across dogs and giraffes and people.
I don't mind it. I think sometimes when you look at people's websites, it's like, whoa, what do you shoot? And so it's like refining the portfolio so that a website should be a snapshot of what you could create. So I think it's good to be, I think I use the example of cars because it's hard. And so I think if you're going to shoot cars, it like takes a lot of focus because you're shooting a moving mirror basically. And so understanding lighting, reflection, like more so than any other thing, maybe like jewelry, but jewelry is a little easier in my opinion. I know some photographers and directors would be like, dude, not a chance. But it's usually in a studio setting where you're controlling all of the light. Cars, you're like dealing with natural and artificial. I don't mind it when we see like a photographer or director that has still life product, stuff like that, and then all the way to lifestyle. I'm gonna, if I was doing that more of that like I used to, I'm like, I would want to hire that person because I don't have to hire two people to go out and shoot the product in studio plus the lifestyle portion of it. So what's the saying? Niches get riches.
Yeah,
sure. Like I think when it boils down to like, if you're coaching a specific topic or stuff like that, but for photo and video, it's like, it does help to be really, really great at one thing and only go out for that thing. But it may cut you out of opportunity. Don't try to be any and all things to all people just because you want it for the money. Like we can feel that. And so just do what makes you happy in a sense. And if you're like, everything makes me happy, then show it off.
When it comes to positioning, how deep is too deep and what is deep enough in terms of how narrow of a focus do you aim for?
Or are we specifically talking portfolio?
What other way would you?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, like your body of work.
Yeah,
like this is
cool.
Yeah.
You're like, what are you talking about? And yeah, I think I'm trying to think of like examples. We've all been on websites where it's just like, this is so much running, and then it's like I finally get to climbing, and then I may get to there's running again. It's like, get your 3 best on your overview page, and sure, if I want to then dive in specifically to like a niche, then I can. But I love sites that are simple, clean, don't have a lot of words. If we're specifically talking about photography or directing too, but it's just a little different style of site. Just get your best of like the stuff that you love across the page. And so that, okay. Cause it takes about 5 second scroll. It's like, okay, they got it. Light's good, eyes good, all the things. They have style, whatever it is you're looking for. And then it's like, okay, I'm looking for specifically X, because then I'm going to click in and dig into like other things of like, let's running, keep coming back to running, going on a run later. So then just going to dig into that stuff and it's like, okay, how are we framing things, shoes, this, that, and the third, like form, use of models. You can tell when you didn't hire a professional runner, all those things.
Let's talk about money. How do you recommend folks talk about money, talk about budgets, navigate through the proposal or bidding process, whatever that might look like, depending on the project?
Bidding is interesting. 100% of the time, like if you're on client agency side and I'm the one needing the bid, I know the budget. My process is I don't ever share the budget unless it's like, I need to get this answer now and I need you to be in this number. I'm going to share it with you right up front. And just so it's like, there's no super back and forth. But if it's like a triple bid and it's like, I want to get people's bids because they're going to go high. I want to get people's bids and then we're going to dial it back. Then I'll start sharing like, okay, we need to be here across this stuff like that. I don't believe that. And this is smaller brands. Like if you like, hey, we want you to shoot this thing, outdoor lifestyle brand. And we have like these specific shots. They give you the shot list, they give you the creative, and then you come back with a number and you ask for a budget. They don't give it to you. And then you hit them back with your estimate and it's like 20 grand over what they're expecting and they ghost you. It's like, that's not cool. Because you didn't give me any. And then they just assume you're expensive and you can't work together. It's like, hey, there's always room here, but I just gave you the most perfect world scenario. It's like when you're buying a car, you can either buy a Toyota or a Lexus. Both get you from point A to point B. One's got a lot more bells and whistles. And it looks a lot better. Just kidding. They both look great. Yeah, and if you want to give, like, we could bounce some more specific questions and I could dive in.
Sure. Yeah, you bring up the classic, what's your budget, what's your rate question, chicken or the egg, the Western shootout like meme that pops up on every photographer forum. I mean, I understand from the client side, like why you would be hesitant to share the budget because you're trying to find the right fit, and part of that right fit is the right budget, right?
Right.
So let's say you're looking at 3 different bids. 2 of them are similarly priced, but they're average photographers or directors. But then one of them is twice your budget, but they're excellent. How much of the decision always comes down to budget in terms of who do we pick?
For me, it never does. Because if somebody's twice the budget, it's like, you'll have just an honest conversation with the EP or the rep or whoever is like, hey, we're here. You guys are here. What can you do? And 100% think you're worth it. It's just like, this is the reality of the project. We want to work with you. And so then it's just like a little bit of give and take. And it's a lot of times it's like, this is the lowest we can go, or else we feel like we're sacrificing the quality. And so then it's like, okay, then I got to go back to bosses and clients and be like, all right, we feel this one's the best, and we just make a case for it. And this is on bigger clients too, right? And so that's why I would be like, after round 2, round 3, as much as possible, is like, I want all 3 bidders to be in the same stratosphere of costs. That way it's just a creative boxing match, and that is the only thing.
Yeah, makes sense. We've talked about a lot. If you had to start to wrap things up and summarize some of the advice you have for all the creatives out there, what does it come down to?
first things first is like get out of your own head and just ship the work. That book that I think a lot of us have read, and get in front of people as much as you can. Don't be afraid to like the follow-ups are key. And that's like the big takeaway from a lot of this is like, just be in the room like as much as you can. And if there's the cycle of like not busy, freaking out, busy, don't care about reaching out, not busy, freaking out. And then that's felt. So figure out some sort of system that you can make so that your outreach is constant. There's so many tools now that you can auto draft, like all the things. And that's outside of AI. If you're anti-AI, that you can stay present online in other ways, just to stay in people's orbit. Because the biggest thing is like we're slammed, and it's hard sometimes. It's like got the office yesterday at 7, didn't leave till 7, and I'm not asking for sympathy. It's just like that's just the reality of when you're in these companies, and especially the big ones that everyone wants to work with. And so how do you separate yourself? How do you stay constant and present? One thing we didn't talk about is like your work doesn't speak for itself. It gets you in the room. It gets you in places where, your dreams can imagine. But if I never see it, how, it just
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And so that's just the big thing to me is like consistently show up.
I think there's a lot of things in here that you've shared that people can probably identify in their own business and their own practices that maybe they are already doing, or they could start doing or tweak. It's funny, and I think it's probably worth reiterating the fact that you said like most people get stuck in their heads. And if you've seen that across however many hundreds or thousands of creatives, it's probably true for, like you said, 98% of everyone out there. Maybe that's one thing to add is like, get out of your head, however you can.
Yeah. I mean, I'm guilty of it. It's like, it took me like challenging myself. And that's one thing that works for me is like, I'm just going to challenge myself to do this thing. And so it was like posting 90 days straight on LinkedIn, and excluding Saturday and Sunday. And if no one resonates with what I feel like I need to talk about, then I'll just stop. And it's been a little bit of the opposite. And so, and yeah, the work doesn't what I post about doesn't land with everyone. And I think if you read something that I write and you're like, yeah, but it's like, okay, you take a step back and like, I'm only putting out stuff to help people. And so if you want to try to find the negative in it, it's like, okay, chill out, and I'm not right. I'm not writing to be right. I'm writing to hopefully help somebody, even if it's just one person. Because this industry is crazy. It's cutthroat. It's all the things that, as much as a professional athlete, it's like, it'll spit you up and chew you out. Like one day you're on top, the next you're at the bottom. And I think just navigating what that looks like. And a big thing is like, you gotta have your business set. I saw this post the other day that this like almost shut down the business because the 6 months is no work. It's like, well, why is your business set up on a 6-month turn? You got to be able to navigate some big drops. Don't over leverage yourself. That may be a podcast too.
Yeah, that gets into the weeds of financial advice and how to, but a good note nevertheless. Chris, if folks want to connect with you and, well, if they want to send you a cold pitch, if they want to learn more, where do you recommend they find you?
I think the best place right now is on LinkedIn. It's just Christopher Whitten. on LinkedIn, easy search. My face with the blue background. Yeah, hit me up. I try to respond to everything. There'll be lulls where I don't, but I try to get back to everybody. And love hearing from people. Even if your message sucks, I'll still respond. I may try to help you fix it.
Chris might rewrite your cold pitch.
Yeah, don't be offended.
Well, Chris, thanks again for joining us. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
On the eve of a big project you're shooting here in the next week. I wish you guys the best. I hope you guys get some sleep and everyone stays healthy.
Thanks so much, Cole. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye.